The news hit Seattle like a thunderclap. Boeing, the titan of American aviation, was grinding to a halt. On December 10, 2025, production lines for the 737 MAX and 787 Dreamliner fell silent. This wasn't a strike or a glitch. It was a crisis born in Beijing. The cause? A sudden, total cutoff of critical materials, specialized alloys and composites, sourced almost exclusively from China. This was a targeted move, a shot fired in a trade war that had just escalated. Thousands of workers were told to stay home. The uncertainty was palpable. The halt rippled through Boeing's vast network of suppliers and local businesses, grounding the American dream for many. It was a stark wake-up call. Decades of efficiency-driven dependency had become an Achilles heel. The United States, once proud of its industrial self-sufficiency, now faced a crisis dictated by a geopolitical rival. The day the assembly line stopped was the day America realized the era of globalization as we knew it was over. The silence in those factories echoed a new, unsettling reality. Why Boeing, and why now? This was the result of China's decade-long strategy to dominate global supply chains. By controlling critical materials, rare earths, titanium alloys, carbon fiber, China became the world's gatekeeper. Cutting off Boeing was a demonstration of power and a boost for China's own aerospace champion, COMAC. With Boeing sidelined, airlines in China and beyond are now incentivized to turn to COMAC, accelerating China's ambitions. This is asymmetric warfare. China leverages economic might to achieve strategic goals without firing a shot. The message to multinationals is clear. Operations can be turned off like a switch. China is rewriting the rules of global commerce, shifting the center of gravity from west to east. By grounding Boeing, China announces its arrival as a superpower ready to disrupt America's most vital industries. The US-China industrial rivalry has been decades in the making. In the 1980s and 90s, American companies moved manufacturing to China for cheap labor and new markets. This fueled China's rise and transferred industrial capacity and knowledge. China's Made in China 2025 strategy targeted high-tech industries, robotics, AI, aerospace. The US prioritized short-term efficiency. China played the long game, building domestic capabilities. The result, America became dependent, while China gained control over essential goods. The Boeing crisis is not a sudden event, but the predictable outcome of diverging strategies. The rivalry forged in steel and microchips has now reached its boiling point in the skies. The lesson: long-term strategy trumps short-term profit. Global supply chains, once a symbol of efficiency, are now a front line in great power conflict. Boeing's Dreamliner contains millions of parts from hundreds of suppliers worldwide, many in China. Political tensions have turned this model into a vulnerability. China's targeted cutoff of irreplaceable components, like titanium forgings, crippled Boeing without broad tariffs or military action. This is the weaponization of the supply chain. Western companies focused on cost and quality, not on the risk of geopolitical disruption. Deep integration with Chinese suppliers is now a liability. Untangling these connections could take years and billions of dollars. The impact extends far beyond Boeing. Every globalized industry is now on notice. The quest for efficiency has created a fragility that rivals can exploit. Experts call the Boeing halt an economic earthquake. Dr. Anya Sharma warns of a direct hit to US GDP and a potential regional recession. Boeing's paralysis is America's paralysis, hundreds of thousands of jobs and the nation's largest exporter, frozen. Supply chain consultant David Chen says reshoring is no quick fix. Replicating China's capacity could take a decade. In 2024, 60% of critical aerospace components came from or through China. For some materials, it's over 85%. This isn't just a trade imbalance, it's a strategic dependency. The pursuit of lower costs hollowed out domestic production in sectors vital to national security. The consensus: this is a watershed moment. The era of go global is over. Every CEO must now be a geopolitical strategist. The cost of getting it wrong is existential. America was not prepared for this new reality. The crisis of December 2025 was years in the making. After China joined the WTO in 2001, U.S. companies, including Boeing, expanded supply chains into China for cost savings and market access. Boeing signed deals for major components to be built by Chinese state-owned enterprises, sowing the seeds of dependency. In 2015, China's Made in China 2025 plan targeted aerospace for self-sufficiency. The U.S.-China trade war began in 2018, but deep supply chain integration remained. Tensions escalated over Taiwan and technology controls. The U.S. imposed semiconductor export bans. China restricted critical minerals. A 2024 Pentagon report warned of over-reliance on Chinese suppliers for aerospace, a warning largely ignored. On December 10, 2025, China halted exports of aerospace-grade titanium and composites to U.S. companies, with Boeing at the top. The move was perfectly timed as Boeing ramped up production. A decade of deepening dependency, rising tensions, and ignored warnings led to this moment of maximum leverage. Boeing's halt is a boulder dropped into the global economy, with ripples spreading fast. Over 12,000 U.S. companies in Boeing's supply chain now face a catastrophic drop in orders and layoffs. The world's airlines counting on new Boeing jets face chaos and scramble for alternatives. Airbus, already at capacity and reliant on global supply chains, is also vulnerable. The disruption creates a power vacuum in aviation, one China's COMAC is ready to fill. Chinese airlines will likely cancel Boeing orders and buy domestic C919s. China will offer the C919 to developing nations, expanding its influence. The crisis could establish COMAC as a major global player. Beyond aviation, every industry is reassessing its reliance on China. The Boeing crisis is now a case study in the fragility of globalization. This crisis is about power, not just economics. China's move is direct retaliation for U.S. tech sanctions, showing it has economic weapons of its own. It's a tit-for-tat escalation, moving the conflict from microchips to passenger jets. The action aims to divide the U.S. from its allies, making them wary of joining American-led sanctions. China wants to isolate the U.S. by making it appear risky and unreliable. Domestically, it's a show of strength, fueling national pride and political stability. Grounding Boeing is a potent symbol of China's rise. The U.S. faces a dilemma: retaliate and risk escalation, or negotiate and appear weak. Washington is caught in a strategic trap of its own making. Boeing's grounding is a moment of reckoning for America. The path forward is uncertain, with profound implications for industry and global leadership. One option: a national mission to rebuild industrial resilience, reshoring factories, training workers, redesigning supply chains for security. This is slow, expensive, and a reversal of decades of free market thinking. Another path: negotiate with China, trading tech sanctions for restored material flows. Short-term relief, but long-term vulnerability. The worst-case continued decline, with Boeing and other giants ceding ground to Airbus and COMAC. America could become dependent on others for the foundations of its economy. The wake-up call is clear. The illusion of win-win globalization is shattered. For U.S. companies, resilience and geopolitical awareness must now rival efficiency and profit. For the nation, this is a crossroads, a test of whether it can meet a strategic challenge from a determined rival. The future of the American century may be decided not on a battlefield, but on the factory floor.